Hi, my name is Star and I'm a latex enthusiast and I run Damask magazine, and I'm excited to be interviewed today for Rubberly Profile.
You're watching Rubberly Profile, the series where we bring you up close and personal with the most fascinating and inspiring personalities around latex fashion.
I'm Alec.
And I'm Brad.
Today we're thrilled to have Star with us, the creator and editor of Australian lifestyle magazine Damask.
For over 9 years, Star has been active within the Melbourne community, with 2023 marking 5 years since she founded Damask magazine. Through her community engagement and work with the magazine, Star champions a strong passion for fostering self-expression and growth, a keen interest in rubber fashion and fetishism, and works with individuals from all around the country and world to provide a platform for sharing the diverse stories which can be found within the kink community. So Star, we want to start by asking about the background of Melbourne's kink scene. As you know, it's pretty unique compared to other cities around the world. How did you first get involved in the scene here and what drew you to it?
Okay, when I was 19, actually I think it starts before that. When I was about 18, a good friend of mine told me about a website called FetLife, and she said, Star, you're going to get on here and then we can go parties and we can have so much fun. At that time when I was 18, I had a boyfriend and I proposed the idea about FetLife to him.
It's just Facebook for kink.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, this was back in say 2013 when I was 18, and I told my boyfriend at the time about FetLife and he said, oh no, only freaks do that stuff.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he was really disparaging about it.
Sounds like a keeper.
No, well, that's why. Well, that's not the reason why we broke up, but it definitely factored in. I think, you know, that relationship ended, and then my friend was still kind of like adamant about inviting me out to parties and getting me on FetLife and getting out there and meeting people. Yeah, so at that time I was 19, and so I went to my first event, which was Archie's Munch, which was one of the longest running munches in Australia, probably. I think
I bumped into him about 11 years ago now. I randomly came down for a munch.
Archie's definitely an icon. The munch doesn't run any longer, which is really sad. It stopped a little bit before COVID, but that was like such a melting pot and meeting space for so many kinky people in Melbourne for so long. Maybe like 10 years, could have been even longer.
Absolutely.
And then I went to my first play event, which was Provocation School of Sin, May 2014. So next year will be like 9 years of going to prov pretty much every month.
Nice.
Yeah.
We've got a few milestones here from the looks of it.
And then, you know, we had a lot of great kinky parties over the years.
Lovely venue, that.
Yeah, and it was an amazing venue. And then I started Damask after about 5 years of having explored the kinky scene, getting to know it and becoming passionate about everything kinky and fetish and stuff like that.
That's really
The
cool.
progress like you've made in such a small time is honestly incredible. I mean, in 2013, back then, FetLife basically barely existed.
It was 2009 it went back, but it was
changed.
I think it was popping. It was, in my opinion, it was more active back then.
Yeah.
Now I feel like most of the people that I know in kink don't really use it the way that they used to.
Yeah.
It's still super useful for lots of things, for, again, like connecting with people and finding events and exploring new kinks and fetishes, but it's not, I don't know, maybe that's just maybe the way that I've used it has changed.
That's fair. So, that's pretty cool. It's you've got a lot of milestones there, so Alec, over to you.
Yeah, well, let's switch to Damask. For our viewers who may not be familiar with Damask, could you please tell us about the kind of topics the magazine typically covers?
Okay, yeah. So the magazine comes out every 3 months, and in each issue I try to make sure that there's a range of topics within the magazine. It gets, especially like you guys know in the kinky scene, it can be really hard to not just do something that's latex focused and not just do something that's rope focused. So I try and have something kind of for a range of interests in each issue, whether that is latex, rope, you know, sometimes we have like stuff more obscure like feederism, or like I've had an article about wool fetish,
Oh,
Perfect sense.
vor, like giantesses. I'm always talking to pro-doms and people who are subs or bottoms, people who are professional and just do it for fun.
I think it's very important because a lot of this stuff, people have perceptions from stereotypes, from movies, from media. Very
Definitely.
popular things which very much don't cover like the whole width of the spectrum. And the stories and the variety of, fetishes and lifestyles you can encounter are just uncountable. And the representation in that sense is very important.
And for those that don't know, they may be into something. I mean, hello, learning curve. I mean,
Yeah, I think
it's an interesting read if it's not something they're directly into.
totally. I think it can be a good entry point for discovering something new or finding a new interest that you might not have been able to discover otherwise.
That makes sense.
I think also Damask is different from other fetish magazines in the sense that it doesn't just focus on one thing, whereas a lot of the ones that exist today are more latex focused. Well, most of them are just latex focused.
like skinny white girl in latex.
Yeah, skinny white girls.
It's like, there's so many more people that go to our clubs. Like, gotta have something that's all of us.
Exactly.
And that's what we love about it.
I think one of the things I'm most proud of with the magazine is being able to show the diversity that exists. Like, I have trans people, I have non-binary people, I have gay men, I have lesbians. I have a pretty good spectrum featured throughout the issues.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. That is genuinely very impressive. How did you get inspired to start it? Where did that sort of come from? It's a huge jump from simply, an enthusiastic creator like you on this sort of scale.
Just jumping on FetLife out of a suggestion from a friend to doing a pretty fucking awesome publication.
The story of how Damask came to be is... Are you guys familiar with Kunoko, the famous...
The rope style?
Yeah, the
Yes.
rope artist from Japan?
Yes, I see them in my Instagram quite often.
Yeah, he's awesome. In 2018, I didn't have him, someone in Melbourne invited him to come and perform, and we had a big event to watch him do some amazing rope. At that event, I was feeling like a little bit nervous, so I went outside, like had a cigarette, having some... I think I was hungover as well, so it was adding to my anxiety of this busy event.
Perfect mix.
Yeah.
Fun night.
And so I came back inside and I found my partner who was working at the event and is also super interested in rope and does all rope stuff, talking to BJ of Eagle Leather. So I wandered into this conversation with Axel and BJ talking, and as I entered this conversation, BJ was saying to Axel, you know what we need, or you know what Melbourne needs? Melbourne needs kinky magazine.
Oh my god.
Well, just so happens there's someone that's
Don't
into
you
it.
all need a kinky magazine?
So I walked in there, I was like, oh my god, this is... And 5 seconds before, I was feeling a bit nervous, a bit anxious, and I walked into this conversation, I was like, oh my god, maybe we could do it. And then I left that conversation and I said, we're gonna do it.
It's a beautiful thought, it's a beautiful shape.
That's pretty much just the catalyst for it then, I suppose.
Yeah, so then I gave myself maybe 6 months to release the first issue.
And that's,
Yeah.
it's paid dividends.
Yeah.
Not just for you, but for the community.
I think it is important, obviously, to acknowledge the fact that the first issue, Damask first 3 issues actually, would not have been able to have been produced without the fact that we did a community fundraiser to announce the project that Damask was becoming to be. So we did a GoFundMe, and we raised enough to print the first 3 issues, and then from there,
That shows you've got the confidence of the community.
yeah, exactly.
you have the
Like
support.
any
You have
small
the
niche scene that has people willing to, throw their money in to make it happen.
For sure, and without that, we wouldn't be where we are today, which is about to have probably one of the biggest parties.
Neither of us are News Corp, so we don't have the firepower to basically start something overnight.
You gotta catch on.
Yeah.
You know how you said about FetLife? FetLife used to have sort of more active scene back before that. Maybe if they expanded back then, they would have more support to do something more creative. And this is sort of what you did right is you took the right opportunity when people were interested into it, you jumped onto it, and you like made it into something really amazing.
Yeah.
It takes dedication, it takes planning.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
That's all good. Like, I mean, from everything we've seen, we've heard, I mean, it sounds like you've come a long way since then. And also, we should note at this point, congratulations on the upcoming 5th birthday of Damask later this year.
Yeah, in September.
In September. What we're really keen to know is, with that much time, how's the magazine evolved over the years? And where do you see it going in the lead up to its 10th anniversary?
5th anniversary.
No. It's 5th
The
anniversary.
future.
How do you see it for 5 years after that?
Okay. So how has it evolved over the years?
Yeah.
At the time when I started Damask, I was doing a bachelor in graphic design, but I didn't know how to use any of the programs or tools to create a magazine.
Oh.
So I had to teach myself, and so at the start, it was pretty rudimentary. Over that time, I have like developed a layout, which anyone who reads Damask can see. You know, it's pretty consistent. We have a set number of, like a template. Yeah.
That's the best way.
Yeah, so it makes it easier for me because essentially it is just me doing everything. But over that time, I've had other editors come in and help me. I have, you know, with each issue about to release, I have plenty of people doing written submissions and photographic submissions, and people who I approach to be interviewed, or sometimes people approach me requesting to be interviewed or featured. Plenty of businesses talk with me all the time about being featured in there as well. And I think that's one of the most important things that I've learned, is that community engagement is kind of what spurs on businesses within the kinky realm.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what starts businesses.
Yes.
We're basically from the same design school. I mean, we're not from any film school, but we do the same thing. So we totally get where you're coming from with just learning all the graphic design from day dot.
Yeah.
So that's a really good hitting the ground running start.
Yeah. How do you choose what to feature?
I think, you know, for each year, I kind of have a rough outline of, okay, if I'm going to be featuring a pro-female dominatrix in this issue, I probably don't want 3 or 4 interviews just with pro-doms in one issue.
Yeah, I understand.
Mix it up a
People
bit.
get a bit annoyed. We need to change it up. That's what I was talking about, having like a diverse range of content. So I will identify some people that maybe I've seen on social media or that I've met in person and kind of inspire me and I want to know more. Or that people even recommend, and I'll do my research and I'll make sure, you know, that there is, while everyone does have a story to tell, I'll try and make sure that there's some sort of like differentiating element that will interest the readers. And then I'll approach them and I'll say, hey, I'll give them a bit of a background about Damask, and then say, if you want to, you know, be involved, let me know, and I'll come up with some questions for you. And then I develop a list of 10 to 12 questions. Actually, sometimes 10 to 14. And they just, some people send me like essays for each question, and some people give me like half a sentence.
I mean, yeah, that's the work of an editor.
There's a good balance. I mean,
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, your time's pretty limited between Damask and everything else in life.
Yeah.
You get essays from everyone.
But also, I find that those are some of my favorite because you get so much juicy info. But it's when it's super long, I feel kind of guilty. I have to cut it back, and we have to have like this negotiation process back and forth.
I think you gotta appreciate the thought people do put in the craft.
Exactly.
In the end, like, you wanna know what makes these people tick. Is there any sort of like difficulty working with people? What do you find most difficult about making an issue?
With the contributors?
Yes, with contributors.
I think also to answer that question, but to reference what you said before about people sending, like your comments on people sending lots of stuff, I think most people are just excited to be in a magazine. You know, for me, I can be like, oh, you know, the magazine, I can get pretty blasé about it. But I do obviously recognize in each instance, people are so excited just to have their stuff out there to a new audience that they might never have seen their work or heard of them or their story.
We can attest to that. I mean, we did sightseeing in latex a while ago, and that was the best part of it.
Exactly. Some people just don't know that this stuff exists.
We're in Australia. We're not just some random on social media who, I mean, for most Australians in the scene would assume is someone else that lives in Narnia or maybe Europe or something.
Narnia.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, we all have Insta feeds with so many cool people that, I don't know, they must live in Narnia or something, but they don't live in Australia.
Like on FetLife, it's Antarctica.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the prime example.
Or Mars.
But I think, Alex, like to answer your question, probably I haven't really had any super negative experiences when putting together an issue so far. I probably had like a couple, you know, everyone has an ego, and I have found, actually I've said this a few times in conversations with people, I have found that if I'm talking to someone who's going to be featured in the magazine, the more well-known they are, with like hundreds of thousands of followers and like they're so famous and blah blah blah, the more well-known they are, the less of an ego they have, and like they're so polite and so nice. And then I've only ever, in the very few instances that this has happened, it's happened like maybe maximum 3 times.
That's a good number.
It's only, exactly, I was calculating the other day, I've interviewed probably like 100 people at this point for the magazine, which is awesome. But maximum of 3 times, it's when people are more nervous about how they're going to be perceived and have their stuff out there that they can get a bit like rude. I've had some European people tell me, I don't know what it's like down there in Australia, like being all disparaging.
Scary.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's really interesting to see how people interact in those situations depending on how they perceive themselves and how they think other people perceive them.
That makes sense. It all sounds pretty cool. I mean, the contributors are what make it. Like, I love reading it. And it's like a box of chocolates for me. You never know what you're going to get. And that's what adds to the excitement of it, is someone new, maybe someone I've not heard of. So kudos for that. But what we want to touch on now is the kink scene in Melbourne. How has that changed over the past few years? And how's the magazine responded to those changes?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think Melbourne is a very unique city in terms of, you know, the cities that I visited in Australia and overseas and experienced of each of their kink scenes or the kink communities and what they have to offer in that realm.
Yeah.
When I first started, there was a couple of big nightclub events, and then we had like, obviously we talked about Arkies. There was Arkies Munch, you know, we had kind of like this regular rhythm happening. And then I would say it was in the years just prior to COVID. And maybe even
the dreadful times.
Yeah, just before COVID, and you know, kind of around the time that Damask was starting. Some big changes happened. We had some more events happening, some events that had been around for like 15, 20 years stopping. You know, the munches were gone, parties were changing, and I think also the crowds were evolving. It was becoming more normal to see like more diverse groups in events, whereas like I think traditionally it's been very the gay events and then the hetero events. But slowly we've started to see more of a crossover, which I think is a fabulous thing. Like,
absolutely.
Obviously everyone has and does need and want spaces for each of their kind of communities, but to have more of a obvious inclusion of those people. Yeah.
It's really good, because I think that's what builds community. It sounds like Damask is a real labour of love, and I'm sure many would agree. So what's the most fun part of running a magazine like this?
I think the most fun part, I don't know, I think for me it's probably engaging with that opportunity to learn more about all different kinky stuff. I love like the history of kink and fetish and BDSM and leather. And there's always something new to learn. Like when I'm interviewing someone and they're telling me about this obscure party that happened in like Sweden in like 1992, like that is so exciting to me. I want to know like what happened before we were around, but then also I think
before the convenience of FetLife, it was
and the internet and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I love talking to older people about
Some
that stuff.
people are heroes. They are unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Like I've been throwing parties like decades ago. Yet nobody talks about it because this was just so underground, so crazy. But this is what really started the whole movement.
For sure.
And you never really hear about them other than like you reaching out specifically and just finding these gems.
Or when the police have raided them and it's in the
boy.
tabloid newspapers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's the only other time you hear
That's
about
our
them.
history. That's the history.
I think we've got to give them
of
fair coverage.
That's a really good point, Brad, because then it shows them in a positive light, whereas the mainstream media only really talks about kink in a sensationalist
the
way.
Daily Mail, the Daily Telegraph, all these filthy perverts have gone here and all dressed in leather and, you know, I think ChatGPT could write the rest with that context.
ChatGPT.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man. But, yeah, I mean...
Let's move on to the real deal, the Atomica. What is Atomica?
What is Atomica? Atomica is a party that I started last year in 2022. And I wanted to make it completely different from any party that I had been to in Melbourne. And I wanted to make it a party that I would love to go to. So that's the way that I designed it. I was like, it has to be a play party, it has to be a dance party, it has to have loads of people and a really like fun vibe with good music and the opportunity to like connect and dress up. Strict fetish dress code.
That's beautiful. No effort, no entry.
Yeah, no effort or entry. Fully 18 plus. Tonight is our second one, Atomica 2.0. So
nice.
These guys have come down from Sydney and now we're going to party in Melbourne.
Yeah, you gotta get your whole trip's worth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, why not?
Any specific features for the night?
Tonight I have 3 DJs, amazing, Xanthrax, Shinobi and Alicia Mayhem, who is also from Sydney. She's travelled down for it for us.
Nice.
And I have 4 performances. I have Alexander McQueen, Samson and Godiva, who are fetish icons of Melbourne, performing at all the parties. I have burlesque star, what's her name, Juniper Fox,
Yes.
and Benbot XYZ, who's going to do something pretty crazy at the end of the night, so I'm excited to see that.
Well, I mean, we look forward to it, and we'll have our cameras.
It's going to be so
We'll have
good.
our cameras around, so yeah, I mean, we'll capture some of the fun as well.
Yeah, check out some of the performance footage on Rubberly.
After all, this is Rubberly, and it's important to ask, what was your first piece of latex, and what's your favourite?
Okay, my first piece of latex was a pair of Westwood bound leggings.
Good brand.
I think I bought them between 17 or 18. Let's stick with 18 because this is about adult stuff.
So
I didn't
we're
know
all 18
any.
plus here.
Yeah, because we're all 18 plus. I didn't know anything about latex. At the time, I was like active on Tumblr and I was like loving girls in alternative fashion and seeing them in their shiny pants, like PVC, latex, vinyl,
It's
whatever.
pretty good for that before the Grand Purge.
Yeah, there was a lot of like amazing like fetishistic and goth alternative inspired punk even like fashion on there, and that really influenced me.
Let's be real, it was basically fetish Pinterest.
For sure, for sure. And yeah, I think I had just like seen an image of these leggings and I was like, I need shiny leggings. Where can I get the shiniest leggings possible?
You need the shiniest.
Yeah.
Can't compromise.
Yeah, it has to be the shiniest. I went to Westwood Bound because at the time, I don't think I even knew about Libidex at the time. Somehow, the Westwood Bound was the first thing that I found, and it had a huge range. I just got some basic black leggings,
the imagery
standard sizing.
The imagery has done around so well on the socials. That was one of the earliest brands I've heard of.
Totally, they've been around for so long. Still one of my favorite. Tonight I'm going to wear a Westwood Bound dress.
Nice.
Love Westwood Bound forever. Yeah, first piece was leggings, and then what was the second part of the question?
What's the
Was it
second part?
favourite?
Yeah.
What's your favorite piece of latex?
The second, my favorite piece of latex has to be. I haven't worn it that much.
Choose, honestly.
Yeah, I've got a lot of latex.
It requires some variety.
I think right now my favorite is my pink leopard catsuit from Latex Moscow. Would you say Moscow or Moscow?
I think it's
Moscow
I say tomato, he says tomato.
Okay.
Both are valid.
They are valid in English. I mean, originally it's pronounced Moscow.
Okay.
You know what? It's fine.
So I think, it's like Rubber / Latex Moscow, pink leopard catsuit, fully custom.
Nice. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alec has one last question for you.
I kind of wanted to ask what's your kind of like, what do you think is your most striking outfit?
Apart from a pink leopard catsuit?
I mean, I believe so, but I kind of wanted to just ask it from the, standpoint of yourself. I suppose it's synonymous. What do you think?
I think my most exciting piece of latex, apart from the leopard catsuit, would have to be. I have a few pink catsuits.
Not an individual outfit, but like a whole. Sorry, not a little piece, but an individual
I think
outfit?
the loudest is probably that bubblegum pink one that
Yeah,
we featured in the promos for this one. That
So
one,
good.
I do love
with
that
the
one.
with the heart. I think it has the heart.
With
That
the
one's.
heart,
I wear that a lot. It's comfortable. It's from Kink Projects. It was affordable. It's my favorite color. What is it? Metallic fuchsia.
That's the best thing about kink projects. I
Yeah.
think that's encouraged more people to get into rubber.
For sure. Just the long shipping time suckers.
Oh yeah, it's long shipping times on a lot of things. So.
Oh, you have no idea. We've been waiting for like what, 3,
Since
4
Christmas.
months? Since Christmas, yeah. Christmas
Oh, that's not
was
too bad.
Yeah.
I waited 8 months
Oh my
for
god.
one of my orders.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, that's.
oh jeez.
And look, there's always, fast, reliable, or cheap. You can only have two.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yes.
It's like one of those Venn diagrams.
Yep, basically.
Venn diagram of
So,
things. all right.
yeah.
So one last question for you. At Travelly, we love automatic media and get like Damask. What advice could you give to somebody else trying to start their own project, trying to become their own creator?
I think it's important to consider why you would want to do the project that you want to do and talk about it with people. If you don't talk about it with people, you can get really in your own head. If you have conversations about, hey, I really am thinking about doing this project, whatever it is, whether it's starting a leather accessories business because you like playing with hardware and putting stuff together, or whether it's creating a kinky magazine because you like physical media and reading and books and talking with people, or whether it's, I don't know, like you guys creating Rubberly. If you talk about it with people and you're passionate about it, you can get inspired in so many different ways through different conversations.
I agree.
And you're absolutely correct.
I think it's about exposure.
Yep.
You have to get people to know about it,
Yep.
and then it's a positive feedback loop. Of
Maybe not
ideas.
always positive, sorry, not always positive, but
For ideas that don't stick.
yeah, but by having those conversations, like what you're saying, it's you can see where maybe things that you haven't thought of before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what you have tried, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
By positive, I don't necessarily mean that everything works.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly it. You need to learn what doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, so Star, your passion and dedication to the kink scene and latex fashion is truly inspiring. We're grateful to have you on the show and wish you and Damask a fantastic future. Also, I don't think we've made it any secret, we are absolutely keen as heck for tonight.
Yay! Thank you,
yes.
Brad.
That's
Thank you,
all good.
Alec. I'm so excited.
So, we'd like to tell everyone, thank you, the viewer, for joining our chat with Star. And if you'd like to know more about Damask, the link is in the description. Copies of Damask are available in print and digital, and you can even get a subscription as well. This is our first of many interviews we'll be doing on Rubberly Profile, and we hope you're keen. So, bye for now. We've got a party to get ready.